Across most of southern New Jersey lies the largest remaining Atlantic coastal pine barrens ecosystem. At 1.4 million acres, which is roughly the same size as Everglades National Park and nearly double the size of Rhode Island, the New Jersey Pine Barrens, or Pinelands, is so unique compared to the other ecosystems in the surrounding northeastern states. From a snake perspective, several iconic southeastern species such as the corn snake, eastern cane snake, rough green snake, and pine snake all reach the northern limit of their distribution here. Additionally, the New Jersey Pine Barrens is probably the most unique population of timber rattlesnakes who overwinter in the root systems of cedar trees, which drastically differs compared to all the other northeastern populations which live in montane areas. Growing up in New England, I was always fascinated with the New Jersey Pine Barrens because of the close proximity to these iconic southern snakes and other herps that I didn't have back home. I just never got the chance to go down there. Well, in October of 2025, my friend Will and I decided to take a trip down to southern New Jersey and explore the Pine Barrens for the first time. We spent 2 days road cruising, hiking, and flipping cover to try and find these cool herps. Normally when I make these type of herping videos, I'm vlogging as we go along. However, we ended up finding only a handful of herps and hours of searching, and most of the footage I've recorded ended up being B-roll. So for this video, I wanted to instead narrate my experience now, looking back on the trip. So let's just jump right into it. On a Saturday night, Will and I left New England and began our drive down to the Pine Barrens of New Jersey. On the way, we ended up going through New York City, which, as much as I'm not a fan of massive urban areas, I couldn't help but to marvel at the expanse of the iconic city that never sleeps. We eventually arrived at our motel in southern New Jersey and got some good night's sleep before awakening early the next morning to start our first day. One thing that stood out to me on our drives into the Pine Barrens was the extent of the surrounding agricultural areas. The wide open and relatively flat fields reminded me more of being back down south than in the northeast. Anyhow, we soon arrived into the Pinelands and I was completely starstruck as to how flat some of the habitat was. Pine forest as far as the eye could see, and the lack of a mid-story really made me feel like I was back in the coastal plain of the southeast. As temperatures were still warming up, Will and I continued driving around on dirt roads, looking for objects to flip along the sides of them.
Our first artificial flip cover of the trip. And of course there's nothing. But that's a good sign for hopefully more flip cover.
We passed through some beautiful wetlands with cedar trees integrated within the Pinelands as well. For the first few hours of herping, it was definitely a sightseeing tour, passing through the woods, and despite our efforts, not a single reptile or amphibian was found. But as we were traveling between locations on a very busy road, our luck instantly improved.
We just saved. We thought it was a hognose. It's a freaking northern pine snake. It's my life for northern pine. Anyway, it was 5 cars went over this snake. 5 cars went over this snake. It somehow survived. And oh my god, that is insane.
So the craziest sequence just happened. We have seen no snakes today. This is a DOR rough green snake. It's one of the biggest rough greens I've ever seen. Unfortunately, I've only ever seen this snake alive like twice. The rough green snake was right next to our good friend, the northern pine snake. So we got a rough green and a pine snake right next to each other, which is ridiculous after getting nothing this morning.
I cannot stress how lucky this whole situation was, because first off, the fact that this pine snake somehow did not get hit by several cars who passed over it was nothing short of a miracle. Then, for it to be our first herp in the Pine Barrens, and the fact that it was our main target and a lifer, made the whole experience even more memorable. While I have seen Florida pine snakes down in the southeast, northern pine snakes have faced severe losses throughout their range, including being completely extirpated from Maryland and West Virginia. So we were incredibly happy to watch this younger individual slither off safely back into habitat. Hopefully, it will go on to live a healthy life and contribute to the success of its population. After this encounter with the pine snake, we entered the ideal temperature window I was hoping for and went back to cruising dirt roads and flipping cover objects we came across. Neither method unfortunately would go on to be successful for the rest of the day, other than coming across a DOR black racer and what I can best guess was a DOR rat snake from a pretty gruesome scene. At one point in the afternoon, we decided to get out and hike a trail since we really weren't seeing anything on the roads or flipping to see what we could find in habitat, and this produced the only other alive herp from our first day.
Well, we finally got an eastern fence lizard. This is the first one that I've seen in 2025. And we are pretty much as far north as they go. We're going to try and catch this guy right here. Pretty cool. You got him. Nice.
Sweet.
There we go.
Eastern fence lizard.
This. Unfortunately, the fence lizard may be dropping his tail, or actually definitely is, but looks like to be a female. It's definitely not the breeding season. I've seen these down in Georgia and Florida where they're at like the southern limit of their range. Oop. Alright, so we got the fence lizard in hand. A little dramatic there. Broke his tail off, or her tail off, unfortunately. I do think this might be a male outside of breeding season, but I'm really bad at identifying that. But yeah, what's really cool is that we are pretty much at the northern limit for this species range. They do go up into New York, just barely, but the Pine Barrens in New Jersey, I mean, this is an animal that you see pretty regularly all throughout the mid-Atlantic and to the coastal plain of the southeast, but all the way up here in New Jersey, that's so cool. We're not going to spend too much time with this guy. I do want to get a couple quick photos. The tail will grow back, and we'll just let the fence lizard be on its way. So we're going to try and release the fence lizard back onto the tree. There, you can see that beautiful back. It just fell. Oh, there it goes. Up the tree. And what they'll do is they'll just run around and hide on the other side, but really cool. I was hoping to see one of these. So we got a fence lizard and a pine snake and a DOR rough green. Not the busiest day, but it's definitely been a significant one.
With New England being mostly void of lizards, seeing a fence lizard in situ was really cool and brought back memories of seeing them at the southern limit of their range in very similar looking pine habitat, including one that Will and I caught in Florida. Eventually, our stomachs decided to end our herping day, so we stopped for a nice meal and went back to our motel for the night. Despite seeing only 2 living herps during a full day of herping, the pine snake alone made the whole trip for us, so we felt pretty satisfied despite our low counts.
Good morning, folks. It's our second day here in New Jersey.
For our second day in New Jersey, we decided to focus more on flipping than road cruising, as the daily high was only going to be in the low 60s. We started off the day by venturing to this one spot that we visited the day before because there was so much cover to flip there that we didn't get to everything then. Unfortunately, no snakes were found at this spot, but we did see something that was pretty cool.
So we're at our first flip spot, and we don't have a herp, but this is an animal that you don't see all the time. It's a praying mantis. That's really cool. Will's coming over right now. We're gonna get a closer look at it, but wow. All right, an interesting way to start the day. All right, so here is the praying mantis in hand. I think it's a male, but these are so cool to come across, and you don't see them very often. Ooh, he's changing direction. So honestly, like I said, we haven't seen a herp yet, but if we're getting cool bugs like this, then you can't complain. Kind of hard to pose, to be honest. Ooh, that got me right there. Right there, that little ratchet strap.
For the next few hours, we put in considerable effort hitting multiple locations trying to see if there was anything undercover. One spot that we explored in particular had several really good pieces of cover, including this big shingle slab that had some occupants under it.
Oh, mice! Damn it. Oh, another mouse. Hello. There's a mouse nest right there.
It wasn't until midday where we finally got our first herps.
Alright, we got one fence lizard today. That's all we've seen herps so far for day 2. We got a fence lizard in hand. That's 2 fence lizards at this one little spot here. So at least we have seen some herps today. No snakes, just lizards. Okay folks, it is the afternoon right now, and day 2 in the Pine Barrens has been more or less of a sightseeing day, and as you can see, the habitat here is absolutely breathtakingly gorgeous. It reminds me really more of, or at least some of the habitat we've seen has really reminded me of places I've been to in Georgia and Florida. Like, I'm just expecting gopher tortoise burrows to be popping up around here in the grass. We have been pretty much flipping all day today, and we've been able to access almost all of our flip spots by car. So unfortunately, we literally, since those 2 fence lizards, we have literally seen nothing else. It's been no snakes today. It's been relatively slow. So this last flip spot, this is it. This is the last spot that we're going to today, is hopefully going to produce something. So maybe we've saved the best for last, but we are going to have to hike to it, so we're going to get going here and we'll see what we find. Well, we got a fence lizard at the flip spot we just hiked to, so let's see what else we can find. Alright, that's fence lizard number 2. Ouch. Is that the sound of tin I hear? Got my first worm. Got my first worm. What'd you get?
A skink.
A skink?
Yeah.
Okay.
Huh?
Yeah, they're here. They're in New Jersey.
I thought it was in the back salamander.
Well, we upped our lizard diversity. I can't flip any of this stuff over here. Maybe this board. Oh, there's another fence lizard. All right, so that's 3 fence lizards. We just flipped something that I was not expecting. Will's like, oh, here's a redback salamander. It's a skink, but this is actually some species of little brown skink, I believe. I have to ID it and see what skink species we have in New Jersey, but this is incredible. This is our 2nd species of lizard on the trip, and coming from the lizard void of New England. It's cool to get some native lizards down here. We've got some fence lizards at this spot, and now we got this little brown skink. Oh boy, I zoomed into oblivion, but there we go. Not really. There we go. Focusing in. He's so tiny. That's so cool.
After this spot, we began our drive back to New England and arrived home several hours later. In closing, visiting the New Jersey Pine Barrens was a lot of fun, despite only seeing a handful of herps. Given the time of year we visited, in Herping and a xeric area which can always be hit or miss in my experience, I was not surprised for the low count. However, it was still so exciting and rewarding to come across that northern pine snake, and also being able to find a bunch of really cool spots, which I hope will produce more herps during future visits in peak conditions. I will definitely be coming back to the New Jersey Pine Barrens at some point in the future, but in the meantime, feel free to check out my channel for some more herping and wildlife content, and I hope that you have a good day.